welcome back to She Said What. This podcast is brought to you by Apple. We want to thank Apple for sponsoring this.
Hell no.
I will accept an Apple sponsor though. Today I have a special guest with me, recording live from our home office because of the coronavirus. I have my boyfriend, Jerobi.
Hi.
He's nervous, I'm not sure why. What are you nervous about?
I don't know.
Saying the wrong thing? Offend my mostly female audience?
Yeah, I don't know how to talk to women.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
I actually didn't want to have you on. You're just on because you're the only person available in this house.
Yeah.
Perry was my first choice, but...
Yeah. Not a very wide pick of the litter.
Yeah, so we're stuck with you. We're currently self-isolating, I guess you could call it. I haven't been to uni or placement in a week, and
Excuses.
neither have you. And the reason why we have to stay home and avoid being in large public spaces is because Obi has a very weak immune system, so the virus is not necessarily a big deal for me, but it is if I were to pass it along to him. So that's why we're recording from home. So I guess the first thing we'll discuss is how did we meet? We met in preschool when we were 4 years old, and we lived in the same suburb. So we've been dating for 5, this year will be our 6 years officially together. And we've been living together for that whole time, and we're pretty much approaching the 7-year itch.
What's itch? What does that mean?
Have you never heard of it?
There's a 7... No, never heard
The
of it.
7-year itch, there's this
Like a
concept
rash?
known as the 7-year itch between couples, where the average of people that get like bored with the relationship or stop engaging is around the 7-year mark when people disengage. So
Sorry, what?
so today we'll just talk about relationships and our thoughts, and we can just really talk about anything because it's just us in this house. Okay, so where did you, I know we've already talked about this, but where did you get your ideas of marriage or like romantic relationships? Where did you get the idea of what that should look like?
I don't know. I didn't really look up to anyone that I know in particular about like what I would want for a relationship, but like I just sort of knew what I wanted.
Do you remember a specific couple or model on TV that you thought like that seems right?
No, I sort of just like, I just know what I want, and as long as both people agree to it, then yeah.
I think I'm similar in that there weren't a lot of people that I knew in real life that had what seemed like great relationships,
Yeah.
or even like functioning. And so it was always looking around and seeing like what I didn't want and what I knew was wrong.
Yeah, that's very true
Like
as well.
thinking back on it, if I look at any relationships like marriages or
Like de facto,
yeah,
like
de facto, which I don't think there's a huge difference between de facto and marriage, actually.
Yeah.
The de facto are probably just like less in debt.
Yeah.
I can't think of any couple that I knew in real life who I thought were great or a model of what a marriage or a partnership should be. And if I did, now that I can look back as an adult, they weren't as like great as I maybe thought.
Mm.
And even now, being 25, I can't think of many people that I know. I don't think I ever looked at it. Actually, that's not true. I probably did look at it as like, what would I put up with? Or, like, honestly. Because every man in my family that I saw in like social circles and even in my communities, they were always doing, and women too, they were doing things that that weren't like in the movies. Like I really didn't see like men going out all night drinking and coming back early in the morning when they have kids, or beating their wives,
Oh
or
yeah, you don't see that
alcoholism
in the
or
movies.
anything. Like you know, you don't see that in movies. So it was like which is really sad. I would think, like, what would I put up with all the time?
How much of this can I handle?
Yeah, exactly.
That's messed up.
I know, which has obviously changed as I've become an adult. Recently, you and I took the New Yorker, like, love quiz. The 36 questions that lead to love was based on a study by Arthur Aaron, who's a psychologist, and he explores whether intimacy between strangers can be accelerated by, like, asking these specific questions. And they're broken into, like, sets, and the first set is sort of like surface level, like, what would constitute a perfect day for you? Would you like to be famous? In what way? Like, it's just meant to tell you a lot about the person. The second set is a little bit more in depth, learning about your history. What's your most terrible memory? How do you feel about your relationship with your mother? That's pretty hectic. And then the last is a little bit more personal, which is sharing an embarrassing moment in your life, talking about your sort of ethics and things like that. And it was really fun. Like, we talked for an hour, and I did learn things about you that I didn't know, which I really did not think were possible. And it was fun. Like,
True.
I definitely encourage, I think anyone could do it, whether you're in a long-term relationship or on a first date, or your mum or a stranger.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of the questions, like, I think it's really good even if you're a couple, for sure. It's really cool. But, like, if you've already been a couple for a couple years, some of the questions are just, like, skip. Like, we know this. It's, like, obvious.
I think we were both on the same page where there's a couple questions where we both were just like, no.
Yeah.
So there's been quite a large amount of research that's been done on marriage, and mainly because usually people that are in a relationship are at the head of a household, and that can affect economies and things like that. The main finding in studies on, like, social relationships is that they have really big benefits to people's mental health, and people that have strong relationships and in social circles live longer. So that's what people have found. So when you have more people in your life that you can count on and talk to and communicate with, and you can be supportive to and receive support from, people with those strong circles have actually been found to live longer than people who don't. So what they have found in the last couple of decades is that married people live longer than single people.
What about just, like, married people compared to people that aren't married? They're just, like, in relationships.
In de facto, well, I was looking at a study the other night, and it was sort of like a meta-analysis on lots of little studies, and all of them were, like, peer-reviewed, and this analysis looked at 18,000 people across, like, a range of studies, and they analysed, like, the findings from each of those studies. The main finding: following marriage, people report fewer symptoms of depression, and they're less likely to think about suicide. Obviously, these studies are done on heterosexual cis couples, so that's probably due to the lack of representation of, like, same-sex couples and queer couples in the literature.
Mm-hmm.
And also lack of recognition, so it's not recognised by the law. There are still scientists that think that LGBTQ plus relationships are too new to be considered stable, which is completely untrue. There are so many, like, long-term couples in same-sex relationships. So this is what I wanted to mention. Another finding from this study, and it was published in Family Matters. It was by Amato in 2015. There was no significant difference in mental health when comparing long-term marriage versus cohabitation. So cohabitation is just that, what do we call it? De facto relationships, which was actually different to what previous studies had claimed, which is very interesting because a lot of people, especially our age, are opting for not involving the government and just living as a married couple and operating as a unit rather than actually getting, like, a legal marriage certificate, which I find that entire thing, like, quite fascinating. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm not too sure. I think marriage is for the people. Like, it's, I don't know, it just can bring comfort and, people can feel more stable, I guess, but I don't think it would change much for most relationships.
Do you think commitment is important to you?
Yeah, commitment, yeah. No, I think it like when I was younger and like what I wanted to do, I wanted to go find a girl and marry her. But like now that I'm with you, it's like so comfortable. Like I don't even need it. I feel like we're already married, but
So, like, having someone verbally commit to you and show you is like sufficient enough. You don't need to actually have a legal binding document.
yeah. But I always thought I would want to.
Because I remember before we started dating, you had said you only wanted to marry one person. You only wanted to be with one person.
Yeah.
Where did you get that idea?
I just wanted to. I don't know. Wasn't anything in particular.
Because that's
It's just what I wanted to.
That's like pretty traditional. Like that's like the opposite of what a lot of men your age are doing now. Like this is before we were dating, we weren't even together, and you said that you only wanted to ever be with one woman in your whole life.
Yeah.
I
never had any other girlfriends.
I've never heard that before. So I find that interesting, and I'm wondering like where you sort of created that idea.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a very personal thing. I think like open relationships and all of that stuff is, as long as everyone is okay with it, I have nothing against it at all. It's just not what I want. I'm the kind of person that's like, once we're dating, that's it. I was like,
so you never
the
just
first
wanted to
person
date like casually?
No, not at all. I wanted to date someone I already knew, and then if it was a good relationship dating, I was like, well, let's go.
Yeah. I guess because we started dating a little bit differently to most people as well.
Yeah.
Where it was very like, I don't know how you would say, like formal or old school.
Yeah, but it was so comfortable because we'd like known each other since we were 4.
I think what happened is I just told you like I'm like you and let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm not ready now, and then it took you months and months to mentally prepare yourself.
Almost a year.
Yeah. And then you were ready, and lucky for you, I obliged.
Ah, that's how it was.
I did want to mention that because the larger studies did completely exclude same-sex couples, I went looking for a study that looked at the factors in relationships that like mediate successful marriages, and there was a really good one. They had 31 same-sex couples, and the mean relationship length was 22.6 years. So it was from like 17 years to like 50 years.
But
yeah. The researchers found that the most important factors contributing to marriage longevity were 1, communication, 2, similar values, 3, complementary similarities and differences, 4, sharing experiences, and commitment to the relationship.
I don't think I've ever heard the similar values one. I like that.
Really?
Yeah, I never...
That's something I think about all the time.
I've never heard of that, but it makes so much sense.
That just makes sense for any type of relationship in my life. Like,
even friends.
If we have different, like, something I find really interesting about your mum is that you don't have to have the same politics or ethics as her for her to, like, be in a friendship with you.
Yeah.
And that is just too hard for me. Like, I don't condemn anyone that has different views to me or different political views. Like, I wouldn't condemn a Trump supporter, but I would never be friends with one or engage in one. Like, what would we talk about?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't need to be friends with anyone who's a Trump supporter, you know? And you and I have a lot of the same values, and I don't know if it's because we have similar thinking or because we literally grew up within 10 minutes from each other, but we have so many similar values, and I think something that's interesting about both of us is that we're very, very progressive in some areas, like bordering on socialists, and then we are super, super traditional when it comes to relationships. Like, monogamy is the only option for us personally. Yeah. We want to get married, we want to have a family. Yeah. I am a very, like, liberated, progressive woman, but I do want to have a family, and, you know, I'm not going to fucking stay home and do the cooking, but I want to have, like, a partner and kids and a good job, and they're, like, quite conservative, traditional values. So that's really interesting about the both of us. There's this psychologist, her name's Esther Perel, and she's a psychotherapist who specializes in relationships. and she does like lots of research and on relationships, and she publishes like blogs weekly as well, but she's really established, and she has found that millennials share a huge sense of individualism, so like self-centric, like self-centered. In Asian cultures, Eastern cultures, they put a big focus on the family. Like, you only do things with the family. You even like 30-year-olds like still live with their parents, go and work at night for the family. Whereas Westernite people, they're like, I want to do something that makes me happy, you know. So I think that individualism has helped us in lots of ways. So, for example, like career goals, sexual freedom, like especially for young women. But it has halted us in other areas like commitment and consideration of others. So it's this like very Western concept to do what makes you happy and put yourself first. And Esther Perel has looked into that a lot, and she's talked about like why it's so hard to engage in like modern love as a person in the dating world in 2020 is because we're so focused on individualism that it's really hard to commit to people, because you've always got that question in the back of your mind, like, is there something better? Which I've heard from so many people that I know that are dating and on Tinders and things like that.
Yeah, you probably never asked that that way. I'm the best.
Yes. And she's also talked about how engaging in love can be seen to lots of people as like a loss of yourself. So like having to cohabitate with someone or share time with someone, or like you have a responsibility usually to check in and tell that person that you're not dead, or, you know, share where you are and things like that. So it's like seen to a lot of millennials as a loss of self, which I find really interesting.
But that just, I feel like that just means you're with the wrong person. Like, if you're with the person, you should want to be with them 24/7 because it'll make you happy. Being with that person should make you happy, and then
maybe, I mean, you see, like a perfect example, Beyonce was cheated on. Her husband, who she has a child with, stepped out of her marriage and cheated on her with another woman. You don't get better than Beyonce. Oh, you know what I always have thought was a really weird thing is that, and people still say it now, is like when two halves become whole. Like, have you heard that idea?
Yeah,
I've even seen it on wedding invitations and things like that. I always thought that was so fucking stupid. Like, I'm a whole person, and you're a whole person, and like I think that having the idea that like you're unwhole until you meet someone is probably what makes you unsuccessful in certain relationships. Like, you're trying to become whole, and that's never going to happen if you think that needs to involve like someone else. Yeah, I took years off like from dating and talking to anyone, and just to try and like figure out what it was that I wanted, and if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been able to be like in the relationship that I'm in now. I feel like you were
that's
young
really funny
soul and knew who you were from a really young age.
I was one of those weirdo boys who was like 12, and I'm like, I'm gonna grow up and just date one person and get married and have kids. I was actually like 10 to 12 years old. What do you want to be when you grow up?
And you're like, I want to be a dad.
Yeah, no, I seriously would.
Three identical strangers.
That
was crazy.
It's about...
If you want to learn about like human behavior and just how like scientists used to be, and, you know, in some areas still are completely unethical, it's a fucking good one.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Don't want to spoil it, but...
So, have you heard of the 5 love languages outside of like me ever mentioning anything?
No, I think I heard it from you, but a while ago, and I forgot them. Like, it was like if you need like physical touch or like verbal or...
Love languages is a model that was created by, I think, Gary Chapman. It's in a book as well. It was like a #1 New York Times bestseller, and he sort of poses that there are 5 love languages that people have, and so everyone has like a different love language and how you interact with other people's
and some have more than one, right?
Yeah, and so the 5 are words of affirmation, so like communication, talking, it could be like affectionate talk, things like that, physical touch,
So like, does that have to be like compliment? Words of affirmation? Does that have to be like?
Sure, encouraging, affirming, complimenting. It could even be like listening as well. So if you're words of
like
affirmation
acknowledging.
is important to you.
Yeah.
So words of affirmation, physical touch, gifting, quality time, and acts of service. I think that it was helpful for me to identify for myself which love language I prefer and identify what your love languages are, just because I'm like, a big one for me is I like gifting. Like I love to give people like thoughtful gifts, and I've always been that way, and I've done like a lot of like gifting to you over the years. Like I created a board game from scratch with my bare hands. It was like a personalized League of Legends Monopoly thing, and we'd only been dating for a few months, and you know, whenever you mention like, oh, this thing looks cool, like I'll save it in my mind somewhere and get it for you 5 years later. And like I just love gifting. I've always really enjoyed doing that, and that is totally not something that you care about in any way. Yeah,
it's probably like the least important one to me.
You don't care to receive gifts. You would prefer people to like not waste their time or money.
Yeah.
Which was difficult for me at first, because I remember the first few gifts I gave you, I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited to give them to you. And then
she's the kind of person, her and her best friend film you opening gifts every time they like get their cameras out. They expect you to cry when they give you gifts.
I was just telling a friend at work the other day, I love when people cry when I give them gifts. It's great.
That's ridiculous.
It fuels me, you know?
Oh,
and
God.
You are the most like, you give the most like underwhelming responses. And the first few times
and pretty underwhelming gifts too, lol.
Yeah. And the first few times like it hurt a bit. And then I think like in the first year or two of our relationship is when I went and had a little bit of research behind like love languages, and I realized that even though that's my love language, that's not yours. What do you think that your love languages are out of those 5?
I don't know. I think you
like physical touch.
I don't like need any, but
need any what? Love.
Of them.
You don't need any love?
I'd probably rank them like physical touch and then the affirmation one. So like I get what I need from like giving you a kiss and a hug and calling you beautiful, and then you like that. Like you appreciating that is like that's the best thing to me. I don't need to have it myself. Yeah. the best thing for me is for you to feel loved.
I like quality time too. Do you?
Yeah.
I like to also be really purposeful with it. So like if we're just, you know, sitting on the couch or laying in bed every night, we're already like we're spending time together, but I like to actually define it and say like we are going to allocate a couple of hours to watch a movie and sit together and hold hands, and you know, that's important for me to like make time.
We'll be like sitting next to each other. She was like on her computer doing work, and I'm like laying on the bed next to her on my phone or something for like hours and hours and hours. And then she's like, okay, let's watch a movie. I need to spend time with you. Like we just were.
Well, that's my love language, so you have to suck it up. So now to close, we'll answer a couple of questions and topics that people have sent in. There's quite a few. Okay, so I think I'll read like some of the topics that people have sent in. So you could either send in like a question or just like things they want us to discuss together as a couple. So there's a few different ones about the coronavirus.
Get a boys.
Regulating media consumption, the corona madness, self-isolating. What do you think about this stuff?
I think...
As the person who would likely die...
Yeah.
from the virus sitting in this room, what do you think?
I self-isolate anyways.
That's true.
But,
Are you scared?
No, I'm not scared. Like, I will wash my hands and I will...
That's all you need to do.
True. And toilet paper. You need toilet paper. You're gonna, like, you'll die.
And don't forget the racism.
You'll die if you don't have a... Oh my god. The China virus.
Oh God, that's ridiculous.
Wait, tell them about the Trump tweet. Pull it up.
Donald Trump just tweeted this morning, the United States will powerfully supporting those industries like airlines and others that are particularly affected by the Chinese virus.
The Chinese virus.
Honestly.
That's fucked up.
I posted that and I said, be better than the United President of the United States of America.
Be better than America.
Makes me sick. Anyway, don't be a racist and wash your hands. Mm-hmm. And stay inside. Please. So, and a few other topics. Someone just said Chance the Rapper.
That's my spirit animal.
Traveling with your significant other. We've never had a problem traveling together. We started dating when we were traveling together. What I would say is...
Yeah, we started dating in Italy while we were traveling together.
When we were overseas. What I would say is, if you're going to travel together for the first time, don't do it with other people. I think you can learn a lot about yourself and the other person when you're traveling, and if you aren't sure about like your compatibility or how you're going to behave, and cohabitating with someone, like if someone's spending every night at your house and you don't necessarily live together, it's going to be different from you like traveling together every day, being stressed out, you know, living in shitty hostels, like not knowing where to go, being broke, like it's gonna affect you differently.
And also, like, to add to that, like, having someone over every day for like weeks is also very different again to having them live with you.
Absolutely.
It actually, like, I noticed a few tiny things, but it wasn't very different for us at all. Like,
we saved money.
Yeah, we saved money, but we're just so comfortable with each other because we've known each other for 20 years before we started dating. So, but like, yeah, that's very good advice. I like that.
Bill Murray said you should travel the world with someone before you marry them, and I don't know, you don't have to travel the world, but you should like travel at least.
Yeah.
If like I could go back, like I would make sure that the first time we travel was just by ourselves, because when you're a couple and you're traveling with other people, whether it's one person or a group or another couple, like
no, I wouldn't change that.
Okay, but you're like a very non-affected person, like it doesn't really bother you, nothing bothers you.
True.
I would just recommend like traveling alone, just as a couple, see how you go, make it short, make it a week,
make it your first
maximum. Date. Yeah, that's true.
Just say, hey, do you want to go overseas with me? Let's go.
We recommend Japan.
Yeah.
After the virus.
True.
Next topic. Cool page. I will follow you if you follow me.
Hell yeah.
People just like random people sending nice things like great account, have a wonderful day. Share my song and I share you.
Is that Julius?
No. Julius did send one in. He said, are you happy? Aww. Definitely. I think
hell yeah.
It's like a little bit pathetic and disgusting. Every single day I look at my like little 2-bedroom house and my mediocre master's student bank account, and I have a committed partner who treats me well and who I'm safe with, and I have a dog, and I just look around every single day and I'm like, fuck, I am so thankful and so happy. Like, I never thought that I would have this life. And this is how I'm feeling, being like a broke post-grad student, middle of coronavirus, and I just feel so lucky and happy, and I honestly do feel rich. Like, I'm so happy. And it's been like 5 years, and it is only growing. I don't see it like dropping off anytime soon, which I find really weird. Like, a lot of, after like I was reading the research, and lots of relationships, they sort of stabilize after a certain amount of time. Like, they peak at the beginning, drop, and then they're stable. And it's been like 5, it'll be our 6th year this year, and I don't know, I just feel like I love you a little bit more every year, and I'm happier, and sex is better. Just kidding. I cut that out.
Didn't know it could.
Didn't know it could get better?
Yeah.
What about you? Are you happy?
Yeah.
You're happy with anything?
Yeah. No, that's not true. Anything if it's you.
Okay. Share your secrets. There's no secret. Just be a good person and find another good person and be even better people together.
Yeah. Find a person who wants you to be a better person.
Here's another question. How did you know that they were the one? I don't remember like a defining moment where I was like, he's the one. But before we started dating, I made a very like conscious decision to want to be with you because you had all of the characteristics that I wanted. And I knew who you were before we got together. Like, I think that I know it's hard to like figure someone out and find out all you can about them before you get into a relationship with them, but if you can, you should. You don't want to find out.
Would recommend.
You don't want to find out who someone is while you're fucking living with them, and then you have to get out of that situation, or some people just stay because it's too difficult, or some people don't have the tools to leave. And I knew who you were before I started dating you, and I figured out like that's the type of person who I want to be with, and then I just did it. I remember like a specific time when I was like, he's the one, he's who I'm going to be with.
Yeah. No, I don't remember a specific time either. I just remember like that thing you were saying, like similar values. I just always knew that you were just like, you had such similar values, and you're like the best person I know. So
I think because we both love each other, that's like, we both love each other, and that's great, but we're both also really practical, and it was like, this would work, and we love each other, which is a bonus. So it's just not enough to love someone. It really isn't. Like, you can love someone and they can still be like abusive, or you can be abusive, or you know.
I just think that the light shines out of her ass. She's like, I feel like most couples, like even me, I do shit that annoys the hell out of her, and she like hates me for a while, for a couple minutes at least. But like, even if she does something that could annoy me, I'm just like, oh, that's cute. That's just a cute quality she has. I don't think negatively of it. It's called rose-colored
glasses. It's referred to in research, which we definitely have. I feel like I have a few pairs on with like -4 thickness or something. Another question. Building a strong relationship. What's your foundation? Like we just talked about, same or similar, at least, values. Even if you don't have similar values, or you're raised in completely different environments or different, cultures, you have to have a respect or understanding of the other person's environment and how they grew up and what their values are. If you don't, it's not going to work. And I feel like mentioning honesty and communication is sort of a cop-out. I feel like they're prerequisites. They're not like things that you achieve.
Yeah.
Like, they're like the bare minimum. Being honest and communicating with the other person.
I don't know if I would be able to give advice, because I feel like I'm just a freaking weirdo. Most people wouldn't be able to relate. But for me personally, the number one thing is like getting to know the person. So like establishing a friendship first? Or? Yeah. Whenever I see all like the friend zone memes, I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's, why would you not want your partner to be your best friend?
Yeah. Another one is, I think the last one I'll mention, there's a few, but some of them sort of just overlap. What works and what doesn't? I think what works is that we can always be like our most vulnerable, authentic selves with each other. Yeah. So I don't have to like hide anything from you. I'm not embarrassed if I have something to say. I'm just like never embarrassed about anything that I do or say. Whether it's like a full-on critique of you, if I say like, I really don't like you right now after you didn't do the dishes or something stupid, I think like, and also if you're just embarrassed to like fart in front of your partner, you should not be with them. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. Like, I just feel like it's so crazy that happens. Yeah, like, what do you do? Like, especially if you live together, like, you leave the room every time. Like, that's insane to me. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't imagine that. I don't know. I guess if it's not for the other person, like it's for yourself, you just don't feel comfortable doing it for yourself, I guess. But I just can't imagine that. Like comfort is being open and talking about everything and being able to just be yourself and be relaxed. Like if you're not tense or anything in your relationship, that's good.
But I think that probably has to do with the fact that we like had a friendship before and we're just comfortable with each other.
I was sick and I had diarrhea and I shit the bed and we just laughed.
That was really funny.
Laying right next to her, I'm like, babe, I think I just shit myself.
On that note, we'll end it here.
Yeah, true.
Thank you for being on my podcast. I love you.
Love you. Shout out to Nick and Amy. Happy wedding. I'm sorry I can't come.
Sorry we can't come to the wedding because of the coronavirus. Nick and Amy, we love you.
I love you.